Hello, welcome back. Oops, still a little crumbly. Today, as you can see, we're making donuts. A few days ago was National Donuts Day. A little late to the game, but that's okay because there's never a bad day for donuts.
So these are the ingredients that we're using today. We have tin to bake, which is my go-to flour. Then we've got regular Domino sugar, no big deal. Then we have kosher salt. So this is most important. You want to use kosher salt and not table salt. Vanilla extract. Evaporated milk. So you can use whole milk, but we don't have whole milk in our house, so that's just what I use instead. 6 tablespoons of butter. And 2 large eggs. And that's it. Later on I talk about oil. So these are the utensils I'll be using today. I've got a dough spatula, it's my favorite, along with a dough scraper, which I don't show below. Measuring cups, these are my go-to. They're really sturdy, they don't really fall over. Some thermometer to check the heat on the water and the oil. Measuring spoons. So these are the main things that I'll be using. And then you'll want to have about 3 bowls. So I like to use these metal ones that are Martha Stewart.
So now we're going to activate our yeast. So some people think active yeast is a fluke. Sometimes it's helpful, but the only problem is that you have to activate it. You also have to, it's easier to use because it helps you control what you're doing. So I'm taking a good temp of it right now. So I know that's too hot because one of the things that can happen is that the yeast can kill, or the milk or water that you use to activate your yeast can kill the yeast. And so that's what I'm just making sure now. So it's a little bit too hot. So I'm gonna give it a couple of minutes to cool down and then we'll get back to it. So we have the flour salt mixture hanging out. We're gonna go ahead and do our wet ingredients. I'm gonna add a little bit more sugar because I had to scoop out the sugar from the dry ingredients, which I'm sure happens to a lot of people. The next we're gonna add 6 tablespoons of melted butter. This butter is not melted per se, but it has sat out for lots of hours, so it's about as soft as the butter can get without being melted. I'm gonna toss that in, bada boom. Right, 2 eggs. And then ready to mix. Nope, almost forgot vanilla. Need a teaspoon of vanilla. I think the recipe might actually call for like a half a teaspoon, but I always think that you should try to put as much vanilla in something as much as possible. So maybe that's not the right baker's advice, but that's what I like to do. So it looks like our yeast is ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that to it. It looks really frothy. It's ready to go. I'm gonna mix that up with no problem. So now it is time to knead, which used to be like my least favorite part, but now that I'm learning how to knead properly, it is a part that I've come to enjoy, right? And so when I first started, I watched like over 20 videos about how to knead, and it's still a learning process. Like I'm not perfect at it, but it's super important for your bread to turn out right. Any kind of bread you're doing. Running out of space. Almost 20 minutes later, this bread is finally kneaded. A good check for your bread to see if it's kneaded. If you push it and it bounces back, That's a wonderful way to see if your bread has kneaded. It is not a 5-minute ordeal. It's probably going to be more of a 10-12 minute deal. So just for future reference, if you think you're done kneading, you're probably not done kneading. And the wonderful part about hand kneading rather than using a mixer is that you can never over knead your bread hand by hand kneading it, unless you're like a sumo wrestler or something, maybe a boxer, professional boxer, maybe, you know, you should cool it. But other than that, you normally cannot over knead bread. So that's a fun fact.
So my dough has sat at this point for about a little over an hour, maybe an hour and 15. It's really ready to get to work. So right now I'm gonna roll it with a rolling pin until it's about 1.5 to 2 inches. Like most doughs that you end up rolling out, you don't want it to be too thick, but you also don't want it to be too thin or it'll break when you try to fry or do anything else with it. So the goal of this is for me to roll it out as much as possible, and then eventually cut it out, the donuts out with this. And so, like most of the time when you're making cookies, these doughs don't necessarily take up the whole cookie sheet. So you have to basically roll it up again and then start over and let it rest and then start over. So that's what you'll see me do. Actually, I don't know if I have a video of it, but that's kind of what I have to do with this.
And that's it. Donuts made easy at home. Probably one of the harder bakes. Not harder, longest bakes. We'll say longest bakes. Thanks for watching.